Hi guys, so I thought it was time for another kind of battle of the blenders. So I picked up from Superdrug, from their fancy Galactic Queen range, their blending sponge. So this guy is $3.99. It says you can use it wet or dry. I am a fan of using it wet. Sometimes I wish I could justify buying two of each of these sponges so that I could have them side by side to show you the size difference when they're wet, but trying to fit it back in the box is usually a pretty good illustration that it definitely grows in size. So I've done half my face using this guy, which is $3.99, and half my face using the Beauty Blender. So Beauty Blender is, I would say, like the kind of iconic teardrop shaped sponge, and then everybody else started bringing out loads and try to put in different shapes. So I like to compare the two and see how they go. So done half my face of each today. Let's see how that went. Okay, so normally when I'm doing this, I've got a metal palette that I put my foundation on. Can't find it, was going mad looking for it. Decided, screw it, I'm just going to use the back of an eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to do my usual, so one pump there, one pump there, and yeah. That just means that I've got roughly the same amount of foundation, and we'll see what's left compared to the coverage. Now this guy grew a whole lot more than I expected. I mean, this little box that it came in, so that's not going in there. I really wasn't expecting this to be as big and squishy as it is. Still not quite as squishy as the Beauty Blender, but we will see. So I'm going to do the right side of my face with this. So I'm just going to use the flat end, and it just says to bounce it on your face, fairly standard with this sort of shape of sponge. Now I will say that seems to have used up a lot of product. My pump is gone, so let's see how much of my face I can get covered using this. I mean, that's the palette for that area, for this sponge, completely empty. It does feel like that might have soaked up more foundation, but what we'll do is we'll quickly try with the Beauty Blender. We'll see how the cover looks and how much product there is. Already I can feel like I'm getting way more coverage with this. Like I feel like the product is going further, and there's still that much product sitting out to use. Yeah, so I feel like I've got a decent coverage for all my face there, for all of this side of my face with the Beauty Blender, and I've still got that much product left, whereas this side we've got, I would say, a lighter coverage, and there's zero product left. So I'm going to grab that extra product that we have on the Beauty Blender side, maybe even some more again. So I've just put out a wee dollop. So far it looks like this absorbs more foundation than the Beauty Blender, which can work out costing you more over time. I'm not going to try and do the maths for whether it works out with the price difference of the products, but obviously the more times you have to dab in and go back, the longer it's going to take you to do your foundation as well. So speed wise and amount of product use wise, Beauty Blender seems to be winning. So I'm just going to use this under eye corrector today. This is one that obviously I applied directly to the skin rather than applying with the blender. So we will see again, you know, whether this gives the same amount of coverage as the Beauty Blender. I was going to say I'm going to use the pointy end, but there's not a huge amount of difference there. But you can squish it to get it smaller, and still use that under under the eye. So okay, again I do feel like the Beauty Blender side looks a little bit better. So last but not least, the Revolution Conceal and Define Infinite Concealer. I say last but not least, but I think I'll use this for powder as well actually. Because I don't really bake anymore, but I know quite a lot of people like to kind of pack powder on with their blender and leave it to sit for a wee while and then go in with the brush and kind of brush away the excess and blend it out. So I'm using quite a lot of concealer because, I don't know, I'm just not in love with my skin lately. And I want to give this a good try. So, again, I'm going to squish it up and do the under eye. I'm making sure to try and use the same bit that I used with the corrector, because that might limit how much product can get absorbed. That's looking pretty nice actually. It's definitely doing a nice job of blending. Certainly its blending ability is great. It's just you might get more coverage with less product with an alternative product, you know? But it's very soft, which I like. Perhaps if you wanted to get a slightly more natural finish out of a product, Flynn's exploring this room. It's still the most interesting room in the house for him, because it's the messiest. Yeah, let's see. I'd be interested actually to try this with something like the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation, which I find to be quite cakey. Maybe it'd be interesting to see if that would improve that. Anyway. So again, I'm using the same side that I'd used with the corrector. Okay. Possibly looks a little bit better on this side now actually. So maybe it's just kind of like an initial thing, like the first product you use on it, it will absorb a reasonable amount of, but as you go along, it'll stop, it'll get kind of saturated, I guess, reach its saturation point and not absorb more. That being said, down here it looks a little bit more red. Still kind of effectively giving out product for me, so interesting. It's almost making me think I would want to use that sponge once it's dirty, which is not something I thought I'd hear myself say. So I'm going to grab my Too Faced Peach Perfect powder and just get a generous amount out into the lid. So I'm not going to do true baking, like I'm not going to sit around with this on. I'm just going to see how the sponges work for picking up powder if you wanted to do that with it. So definitely picks it up. Doesn't seem to want to generously give it back. Okay, now it's going slightly better, because effectively there's now a layer of powder on it rather than it having the wet sponge to stick to, which also means I'm making a mess down my top. Beauty blender, and when you dab that in you get a decent amount anyway. I don't know if it's maybe something to do with the texture, whether it's like a slightly more open sponge that it can grip better. But see what I mean there? Like there's excess powder picked up with that every time. So yeah, I maybe wouldn't rate this for doing powder. And yeah, just going to quickly blend this all the way. So overall, I mean, it is a more affordable option. It'll get the job done for your foundation. It is really nice and soft. If you have a heavier foundation that you kind of want to sheer out a bit, it looks like that would do a brilliant job for that. But overall, in terms of all the sponges that I've used doing these like Battle of the Blenders, I still think I prefer the... If we're going to go for I want a cheaper sponge than the Beauty Blender, I'm still without a doubt recommending the one from the Pound Shop, which I think done a better job than this, and it's cheaper. So if you've got any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. I'm going to go finish the rest of my face so I look slightly less ghostly, and you know, take my hair down because I don't really like having it tied up. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Right, quick wee bonus moment. I decided to see how this would do with my Kat Von D Lock-It foundation, which is, I'd say, the thickest foundation I own. Sometimes goes a bit kind of, gets these wee balled up bits when I put it on for brush. So since this seemed to really sheer out my other foundation, I wanted to see how it would do with this. I will say that my Lock-It foundation is probably past the point where I should have chucked it out as well, so it's probably worse than normal. I just never loved it enough to go into using it as my everyday one, so it just sat around for too long. And yeah, this actually seems to work really nicely with this, because usually this foundation can be a little bit mask-like as well, whereas I feel like this is doing a really nice job of it. So if you do have the Lock-It foundation and you've been wanting something that'll do like a lighter coverage with it, then this might be a sponge to check out. It seems to be the right balance for, you know, you're still getting coverage but it's shearing it out enough to look a bit more like skin, really. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, if you have a foundation that you maybe spent a lot of money on and you want to get use out of it, but it's really, really thick or cakey, maybe check this guy out, because it might be your friend and it might fix that kind of situation. So I'm going to go finish the rest of my makeup now. I just, since I brought it up, thought I should come back and see you guys. Bye!